Welcome back, Stasa23 here, back again with some knife therapy, and today we're going to be dissecting the MassDrop exclusive Forge knife, the Falcon. And this knife was graciously loaned to me by my good buddy Tony Meador from Instagram. I'll leave a link down below. Definitely go check him out. He's an awesome human being. And this was one of the earlier knives. This is number 392, and I noticed the first batch of the Falcons that went out, they had a few issues here and there, and I really think, being that these are produced by We Knives, We's known for their quality control and stuff like that. I think they might have tried to do too many knives at one time, and the first might have had some flaws in them, but a little after I got this knife from Tony, I started EDCing it, and the action, he cleaned it out himself, and the action was pretty good on it. It was actually really good, and the value of this knife seemed really, really high, and it still seems high to me. I think $125. They just had another drop on MassDrop. I mean, especially if they fixed all their quality control problems in the first batch into the second batch, then I definitely think this is a worthwhile knife. If you have this knife and you haven't experienced any problems at all whatsoever, let me know down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your experience. But after using this knife for a little while, I noticed it developed some pretty bad lock up and down blade play. And the reasoning behind this up and down blade play, see if I can show you. See that lock bar? Okay, there's your insert, and all you have is a little bit of the insert touching that blade tang. So see if I can show you this. So when the knife is locked up and it's coming in contact with the blade tang, it doesn't have enough pressure on this lock bar to be pushed over this way enough, that way enough, so it's causing up and down blade play. And that's an easy fix, but it's not something that everybody can do or wants to do, especially whenever you buy a knife over $100. But the easy fix for this is you need to be very careful and add more lock bar pressure that way. And you want to do this in very small increments. With the amount of lock bar pressure, tension they have on this knife right here, he would have developed blade play, after, not long after anyway. So you want to have enough pressure this way to where you have full life of the lock, but you want to make sure you don't have too much pressure to where it's creating too much pressure on the blade to where your action's hindered. So let's see. Basically what I do is I grab it by this part down here and give it a little bend and check, see where you're at. That moved it over a little bit. Now this is not the easiest thing in the world, especially when you got a small lock like this. That moved it a little bit, and I'm going to have to do this off camera. But it can definitely be a challenge to get it exactly where you want it. The one good thing about titanium is that it has very good spring memory to it. So it stays, like once you get it right there, it'll spring to that, it'll spring back there pretty much all the time once you get it set. Unlike stainless steel sometimes, or other metals, once they spring a certain way, they don't really have that springiness to them once you bend them a certain amount. So that's one cool thing about titanium, besides it being I think one of the strongest metals per weight. I find that rather interesting. I know I'm a knife nerd. All right, let's see. All right, now there you go. That should be full contact all the way. So if this thing has to go all the way to where you wear the lock in enough, that's what you want to be able to see. That if you wear it down all the way, it'll pretty much be engaging all the way to the end of that tang. And as you can see, they have a slope on this. I don't know if I'll be able to show you this on my camera, but let's see if I can show that. See how it's cut at a slope? Well, that allows, you know, the more that this area wears down, it'll come in contact with the lower part of the tang right here, creating a lockup, which you shouldn't really have too much wear on this stainless insert right here. Looks like they're using ceramic detent ball and ceramic bearings. We're going to do a quick cleanup on this and get this knife back together and see if it gets rid of the lock rod. And if I remember, whenever I go to put this knife back together, I will show you a trick that I had to use, because this thing does not have a captured pivot. It's got a free spinning pivot, as far as, I mean, from what I could tell, because it was spinning. And I'm going to show you a quick little trick that somebody taught me on Instagram on how to remove a pivot that's free spinning without using like some rubber or something on one side. That's something that I usually do first, unless I know that it's got a lot of Loctite. You know, if somebody's done a review on a knife and that's just a problem. Right now I'm using alcohol swab pads. That's usually what I use. They're really cheap. You can get a box of like 1,000 for really cheap. Wiping down all the parts again, just so I can put some fresh lube on there, just in case, you know, if he's using a different lube. Sometimes when you mix two different lubes together, it messes the viscosity up. Sometimes it makes it a lot thicker. Sometimes it cuts it too much. So I like to wipe everything down one more time. So this knife's fairly clean. I mean, when I EDC'd it, or have been EDCing it, I haven't used it in any dirty conditions. So we're just giving it a good quick wipe down. Another thing I like to do, that's one thing I like about these pads, they open up like this, and I can take the bearings, put them in the middle like that, and kind of roll them around in my fingers so I can make sure I get all the excess grease and oil or whatever was on there before. And do the same on the other one. Wipe it around. And the alcohol's nice because it dries up really fast. It evaporates whenever it comes in contact with the air. And I'm trying to it had tons of Loctite on this from the factory. Trying to get it as much as I can removed. They used a nice T8 Torx on here, and it's got a nice deep recess, so good job there. I mean, we all know from, you know, the knives that we've put out so far, they do a pretty good job. All right, this longer screw is the clip screw, and I'm just wiping it down. There wasn't much Loctite present on this screw, or at least from what I saw. And I don't know if it was, let me see. Yeah, there was some Loctite on this clip screw. I don't know how bad it was. I know I heard a lot of reports of people saying that it was really hard to take these knives apart because they had so much Loctite, which is not cool. But, you know, a little hair dryer or a soldering iron do the trick. I usually use the hair dryer first because I know I'm not going to go above any temperatures that I shouldn't. Soldering iron, you can do the same, but I don't know, I get better results with the hair dryer. So there you go, cleaned off that. And let's get any excess lube off of the the detent ball. Wiping, so you're getting that crud out of the track right here. They did one awesome thing that I noticed right away is they're using nice and thick. There you go, nice and thick race washers. Spyderco, take note. Nice and thick. You can see where the detent ball, the bearings have worn a track into the hardened stainless inserts. Put those back in there, and you can see a nice track worn into that. All right, got everything wiped down, and time to put the knife back together. And that's my dog freaking out. So sorry about that, people. All right, let's see. Pop drop the pivot in. Put that race washer down. I am using a little 10 weight nano lube. It's just my lube of choice. Put a little bit on the pivot just to help the movement on the blade. Put a few drops on the race, the bearing race. Drop your bearings down in there. Turn them. Distribute that lube. Alrighty. Let's see. We need that stop pin. Put the stop pin back in there while the lube is falling all over the place. Put a little bit there and put a little bit here. And I'm going to drop a little bit of lube on the detent ball track. And being that this has an internal stop pin, I usually like to put a little lube in the inside of there, so whenever the least friction as possible is what you want. So all the spots that have potential for friction, it's good to put lubrication, unless it's the lock face, of course. You don't want to do that. All right, let's get this back together. I'm hoping that the lock bar tension will be enough and it won't be too stiff, and we can get it done right the first time. Let's see. Put a little bit of lube on this side. Just a little bit because I already have some on the other side. And I like to drop bearings down like that. Give them a nice little whirl. Distribute that lube. And drop this bad boy onto the knife. Make sure everything's set. You heard that click. Everything's sandwiched together rather nicely. Ooh, the thing's off center. But we're going to fix that. You can see the remnants of the Loctite all over there. I will go ahead and put body screw back in there just to kind of hold this thing together. Using my Weeha P6 on the body screws. I'm just going to say it right now. I used to have tons of Husky drivers. I'm making sure I don't cross thread. That's why I went backwards first. Once you hear that little click, you know your threads are sitting correctly. I'm just going to say, if you have, knives above $50, or you care about, whenever you disassemble and maintain your knives, you don't want to strip out your screw, make it, impossible to get it apart or impossible to do maintenance. Use good drivers. I'm using Weeha drivers here, and I got a Weeha set here. It's good to have a duplicate set just in case you got a free spinning pivot or something like that. Putting a dab of blue Loctite on the head of the screw. You don't need much. Loctite can create a seal pretty easily. Loctite doesn't start to dry until you take the oxygen out of it, seal it. So let's tighten that pivot down. And as you can see, the blade is centered again. And what do you know? No up and down blade play. Now, let's see. Action's nice. If you hear some kids in the background, that's my kids. Alrighty. Now I could probably back off that pivot a little bit. Let me tighten these screws. Doesn't seem, you can tell when a knife's put together, the quality is put together good when you tighten up these and these, and you don't have to adjust the body screws to get your centering correct. The centering went together just perfect right when I started tightening these down. I can probably loosen this up a little bit. Let's see. Oh, wrong side. You got to make sure that you don't put your finger on this lock bar. I usually try to put my fingers down here. See, it rockets out as long as you don't have your finger on that lock bar. If you put your finger on that lock bar, you're going to have some troubles. So there you go. Tony, I hope that helps. I fixed the lock rock. You have absolutely no lock rock. No play left or right, up or down. Absolutely solid now. And you shouldn't have any issues with this knife. Blade centering is dead on. And it was walked over to the show side a little bit, but as you can see, this knife fires out now and it's good to go. You can also pinch it like that. I might take some of the lock bar pressure off, because unless he likes a strong detent, but if you put your finger on that lock bar whatsoever, you're not shooting this knife out. But as long as you keep your finger off that lock bar, you're good to go. So there you go. That's the We Knives Ferrum Forge MassDrop exclusive Falcon. Hope that helped anybody. Oh yeah, real quick before I let y'all go, if you have that free spinning pivot and you don't feel like using some rubber, the rubber's not doing the trick, something that somebody taught me, you take your blade and you push it, like, see this little hole right there, you put it in there, you're not going to hurt it. You push the blade or push the frame that away. You don't have to do really hard, and putting that pressure like that, when you're unscrewing the bolt, it'll bind up on that pivot and it'll allow you to unscrew it. It won't allow that pivot to move. So start out with just moderate pressure, see if that works, and then sometimes you might have to go more, but if you have a froze up pivot, that's a great way to do it. So there you go. Hope that helps somebody. Hope y'all have an absolute wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Peace.